First up, let's talk about how Saylor sees Bitcoin changing the way we use money. He compares it to Facebook, but instead of social media, he calls Bitcoin the global monetary network. That's a huge comparison. Just like Facebook changed how we communicate, Saylor believes Bitcoin could completely change the way we handle and transfer money around the world.
So at that point, you have three choices. You have a fast death, just sell the company. And a lot of people do. 99%. I had 100 competitors, guys. 99 of them, or actually all 100 of them, sold themselves. Right? You just exit. Or slow death. I have my 500 million. I'm just going to start to pay all my employees massive cash bonuses to not quit, retention bonuses. But you're just going to go through the cash at some point. You're not going to be able to get out of your hole. You're going to linger on as a zombie, or you take a risk. And the risk is a transformational acquisition. It's like, when you buy VMware, it's like, can you buy a company that's growing 20 to 40% a year? That's a monster world beater company. And can you buy it for cash or buy it for stock? And maybe you give a new lease on life. And so I looked at, option one, I looked at option two, and I thought, well, is there some monster company we can buy with our 500 million in cash? Because right now it's a liability. And obviously I couldn't find one. But then I looked at Bitcoin and I thought, Bitcoin looks like Facebook for money. It looks like the global monetary network. It looks like the dominant. It looks like the Google or the Facebook. And so I'm like, what's the big tech monster network for money? And Bitcoin looked like that for me. So I thought, hey, maybe I can do a $500 million acquisition. I buy 500 million of Bitcoin. What if you could buy a company growing 60% a year at 1x revenue with cash that you don't need? That was the idea. And it was kind of out of frustration and desperation, but it was a strategic Hail Mary, because your choice is just sell the company, give up. And the company would have been sold for $6 a share in enterprise value. Okay, $6 a share after 30 years of life. So we do that. We get to the 500 million. Bitcoin rallies, the stock doubles, the stock triples. Now we just have an opportunistic run. We discover the convertible bond market, and they want to give us 650 million in cash, pretty much for free.
For free, not pretty much for free, for free.
If I came to you and said, I'll give you $650 million, it's 75 basis points, go invest in something. Can you come up with an idea for something to invest in that yields more than 1%? Probably. If you can't, right, you're not in business, right? Probably you can. So we did that, and Bitcoin rallied again, and all of a sudden we were able to raise $1 billion for zero.
Now, onto something that might surprise you. Saylor says that Bitcoin will easily outpace gold as an investment. He says Bitcoin is going to 10x gold easy. He thinks Bitcoin will become much more valuable than gold, making it a smarter, stronger investment for the future. So if you have been holding on to gold, maybe it's time to think again.
So here's my question to you. So, gold is an extraordinarily mature market, and I'm going to round up here. So gold right now is an 18 trillion market cap industry asset, whatever you want to call it. Bitcoin today is about 2 trillion. So that's 11%. Where should that ratio be? And then by giving us that ratio, we can back into a Bitcoin price.
Oh, look, Bitcoin's going to go to 10x gold easy. Just keep in mind, right? A public company, it's got to hold a commodity on its balance sheet because it can't hold securities. So you've either got a choice of a digital commodity called Bitcoin, which is 60% ARR. Gold is 7%. Real estate is 10%. Bonds are 4%. And everything less than 15% doesn't beat the cost of capital. So the S&P sets the hurdle. So gold fails as a treasury asset for everybody in the world. Bitcoin succeeds. I think you could, if you call Bitcoin digital gold, it's 10x gold. But I still think it undersells Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin is digital capital. It's not just replacing gold. It's going to replace real estate, the S&P index, and any capital asset held by an institution or a wealthy family. So right now, wealthy families and investors don't use bonds or gold as a capital asset, they would use the S&P index or stocks as a capital asset. But banks and regulated corporations, operating companies, aren't allowed to use securities as a capital asset. They're knocked down. They don't want to use gold. It's not liquid enough and fungible. It's not liquid enough. And so they use real estate, and you got a REIT or a real estate development company, but the real estate is, less than the S&P index and not volatile. If you give up the ARR and the volatility of the S&P, you're trading down. So that's not really a winner. And then you're stuck with bonds, and bonds are dead money, a liability. So yeah, I think I've said before, Bitcoin, it should reasonably become a multi-hundred trillion dollar asset class.
Next, let's talk about the future of digital currencies. Saylor envisions a world where the US dollar becomes the main currency used globally through digital assets. He says, normalize stablecoins. The US dollar will become the medium of exchange for billions through digital assets. That means that we could see the US dollar moving faster than ever through digital coins on platforms like Android phones. It's a huge shift that could change how we do business across the globe. You can stay ahead of the curve on Bitcoin and digital currencies. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on more insights and updates on the future of money.
The smart thing to do is think about money as bifurcated into currency and capital. And the US dollar is destined to be the world's reserve currency. And the smart thing to do is just normalize stable coins or digital currency and let banks and corporations issue US dollar stable coin like Tether. And then that market will go from 150 billion to 10 trillion. And the US dollar will become the medium of exchange in North Korea, South Korea, Cuba, China, Russia, Africa, South America, and probably most of Europe. Literally, if you want the dollar to become the world reserve currency and move between 8 billion people the speed of light on Android phones, it's easy to do. Just normalize a digital currency with a digital assets framework. You will have $10 trillion of demand for treasury bills to back it. And then I would say, acknowledge that the world capital network right now is real estate and equity. And if you talk to any billionaire, no one is bragging about holding all of their wealth in cash or bonds. It's real estate, it's equity. And Bitcoin is the emerging world reserve capital network. The most intelligent thing you can do is just sell the gold, buy Bitcoin. It's a free trade. Gold was a good idea in the 19th century. No one thinks gold is going to be the capital network of the 21st century. So just trade the gold for Bitcoin. You'll have 25% of the Bitcoin network. You'll make $100 trillion on the trade. If you don't want to trade the gold, just issue currency. It's a little bit of money. It's free. Print money. Buy 25% of the Bitcoin network. When the Chinese billionaires, the Russian billionaires, the Europeans, when they all basically start buying Bitcoin, the big winner will be the United States. It's not more complicated than you can have Louisiana, California, and Alaska for free by writing a little paper check, or sell the past, sell the stupid gold. Gold is going to, by the way, gold is going the way of silver, which went the way of glass beads, which will go the way of copper tokens, which goes the way of the giant stone coin of the Yap people. It's going to be demonetized because you can't zap $1 billion of gold from an Android phone to an iPhone in one split second. It's not complicated. Everybody's going to figure it out.
Here's an interesting point from Saylor. He believes Bitcoin isn't just a tech innovation, it's a force for good. He says, Bitcoin is a force for good. It will remind people to embrace technology, freedom, and capitalism. Saylor is hopeful that Bitcoin will push people to adopt new technology and remind us all about the value of freedom and capitalism. It's not just about money, it's about shaping the future.
I don't dismiss the presence of evil in the world. You see North Korea, you see Cuba, you see Venezuela. There is evil. It did happen. I just happen to believe that at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a force of good. And it's going to bring people back from the brink, and it's going to remind them that maybe they should embrace technology and freedom and capitalism and property rights and and all of those things that made America great.
Finally, Saylor has a vision for the future where artificial intelligence is a major player in the world of Bitcoin. He believes that AI will use Bitcoin as the reserve capital of cyberspace. With AI becoming smarter and more integrated into our lives, Saylor predicts that people will see Bitcoin as the control assets on digital world, driving its value even higher.
So here's the deal. If we reach artificial general intelligence, the AGI, which I think a lot of folks who are in the Bitcoin think we might do sooner than later, don't the machines take the Bitcoin right out of the gate?
They won't take it, they will adopt it, right? You're gonna have billions of AIs and they can't get bank accounts, right? And by the way, the AIs are smarter than us. And so if you were an AI, you wouldn't invest in gold or silver or glass beads or copper tokens, and you wouldn't buy securities and you wouldn't buy real estate, right? For not because it's hard to buy it, but by the way, it is hard to buy it. They'll be blocked from the 20th century economy. No one's going to sell the AI the house and they can't trade bonds, right? So they'll be blocked from the 20th century economy. But the truth is, they'll look at it and they'll go, well, don't we want to actually grab billions of dollars of stuff that's going to, I'm going to grab 5 or 10% of all the money in the world forever that moves at the speed of light, that's in cyberspace that no one could steal from me. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I think they're smarter than us and they're faster than us. So yeah, Bitcoin will be the reserve currency of cyberspace, or let me restate that before I get myself in trouble. It's the reserve capital of cyberspace. If you're going to store your capital asset, and as the AIs accumulate it, they're just going to drive the price through the roof. And so if you're a person, the smart thing to do is front run the AIs. They're not going to steal it from you. They can't steal it. They're just going to trade you pesos and rubles and real estate or whatever else services you want for your Bitcoin, and they're going to keep it because why wouldn't you? It's the smart thing to do.